Behind the Tab is a GoTab produced podcast that dives into the evolving world of hospitality through the lens of technology, creativity, and community. Each episode spotlights the game-changing innovations, real-world operator stories, and GoTab's own team members who are redefining what it means to serve and scale in modern food and beverage. In today's episode, we are joined by Ian McCall, owner-operator of ISM Brewing Kitchen in Long Beach, California, while discussing their history, recent changes, and evolution over the past few years, all while proudly being a member of the Independent Brewers Alliance. The interview with Ian was recorded live in front of IBA members. Let's jump in. Just a quick introduction. My name's Adam Howe. I spent the better part of the last 2 decades directly in the brewing industry myself as well. Operating 4 different brands of breweries in between the San Francisco Bay Area and now where I live in Indianapolis. Spent the last 3 years with GoTab, which has been great because I get to spend even more time with more breweries, including Ian here. ISM or ISM, excuse me. It's hard to.
Both.
All right, good. Whenever you see 3 letters, it's like you just assume it's the letters, right? But so what I want to be able to, and I'm excited that we were able to create this relationship with IBA as well. And what I really wanted to do is spend, the first part of this presentation just talking less so about GoTab, and don't worry, we'll get to it. But also just talking about Ian, what you have going on, and anybody who showed up a little early got a little bit of a snapshot of kind of your history. But at ISM, these are the things I hope that we'll touch on. But I really want to start off with your history at ISM, whatever, and what you guys have done throughout the evolution of when you came into being till today. So why don't you give everybody kind of a brief synopsis of where you've been and where you are?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Ian McCall. I'm the owner of ISM Brewing here in Long Beach, California. We're almost entering into our 3rd year. We opened in November 2023. For those of you who are familiar with downtown Long Beach, this was the brewery that I purchased in 2023 was the former Beechwood Barbecue and Brewing location, the first brewery that Beechwood built back in 2011. A little bit of my history. I started in 2004 at a brew on premise called Brewbakers. We had 6 15-gallon kettles, and it was, glorified homebrew. I got a chance to teach customers how to make their beer. They came back, they created their own labels. It was a really fun and creative time. Admittedly, the beer we made was not the best. We had some bangers, but we had a lot of crap too. But for me, it was a creative outlet, and I got to learn a whole new industry. Fast forward 2007, 8, I went back to college, got a degree in comparative religion, which is where the ISM comes in. It doesn't hurt that my name is Ian Scott McCall, so you can see it is actually both. And after I graduated, I started working for Beechwood here in downtown Long Beach. About a year behind the bar, and then moved into the brewery with Julian Shrego at the time. Was his first assistant brewmaster or assistant brewer. We had a great time. We won a lot of awards, and I learned a lot about what it means to be a professional brewer. I left in 2018 as the lead brewer here at the pub, went to Rip Beer Company in Huntington Beach. Spent almost 6 years at Rip Beer Company as the head brewer before having the opportunity to come back and purchase the brew pub here in downtown Long Beach. So that's just the quick synopsis of our history and how I got here to where I am, brewing 20, 22, 23 years later. So pretty cool. But admittedly, when I purchased this brewery, I knew a lot about brewing. I thought I knew how to be a head brewer. I knew how to organize schedules. I knew how to order raw materials. I knew how to inventory. what I had no idea about was how to be a restaurateur, was POS systems, um, all the tech stack that goes into the back end of running a business. And what I was most challenged by was I wasn't running a single business. I wasn't running a brewery. Now I'm running a brewery and I'm running a restaurant with a full kitchen, and I'm running a distribution model as well. So it's almost like three businesses in one. But I'm going to focus today on just the restaurant business because that's where GoTab really, ties in. When I purchased this business, the former owner had been running Toast, and everything was Toast integrated. I thought, perfect. We're going to jump in. We're going to continue running Toast. The majority of hospitality professionals already understand Toast. The user interface is friendly and, super easy. We jumped in with all of their scheduling software. We jumped in with all of the auxiliary modules that came along with Toast. And pretty soon, my Toast bill was through the roof. But I didn't know what else to do about it. At the same time, I didn't know how to run a restaurant. I had a chef in here who was a really great guy, made great food, but didn't understand labor costing and food costing. And I didn't either, admittedly. And so we were hemorrhaging money. I was looking at all over trying to figure out, how do I really dial this in? One of my first conversations, I think it was at CBC 2000, it was probably 2024, maybe 25, with Mateen and the team at GoTab, was really kind of taking a look at our service module, our service model, and our cost. And what I started to see and realize was, not only could I effectively control costs a little bit better with GoTab at that time, but the service model was, I felt, better. And one of the big things that I focused on primarily was the QR code ordering. When Beechwood operated in this space prior to the pandemic, it was a full service restaurant. You'd walk in, there was a host. You'd be seated at your table, there was a server. There were bussers, there were food runners, there were bartenders. I mean, it was full service. That had changed even at Beechwood here in this space during the pandemic and stayed the same. Went to a more casual counter service. And so as we opened up, we noticed, lines were forming. People, it was a bummer because people would get in line and they'd have to wait literally with a full beer at the end of the line to get their next beer. And I wanted to figure out how to fix that. The QR codes in Toast, they worked, but the problem that I had with them is they were stationary. They were tied to a table. So patio table P1, if you sat down and you scanned that QR code, you had no way of moving your tab. So when your friends show up and you already have a tab at P1 and you move from there to a larger table, your tab doesn't follow you. It stays at P1. And anytime our customers continued to order food, it kept being delivered to P1 and would come back to the kitchen. And our bartenders would say, I don't know, they're not there. But what we realized was we weren't keeping up with the flow of social interaction and the community. And that's what GoTab allowed us to. Primarily through their QR code ordering system. The QR codes are no longer tied to the tables, but to an individual's phone number. And so I think Adam's definitely going to get into the easy tab flow of being able to start a tab at the counter with your phone number, moving to a table, and continuing your order from a table. When the customers order another round, it'll prompt them and ask them, have you moved tables? Are you at this table now? And you'll say yes. And so it's made it really easy for our customers to move around as their day, their evening changes, and more friends join them.
Yeah. Ian, what I really what, not to interrupt, but like we talked about this when we were kind of prepping for this. what I really like about your space and the model you've adapted and evolved into is that it's a mix and match. It's a choose your own adventure, right? You don't force your guests to order in a certain way. So if they you and then you don't also don't lose that human element. Your bartenders are, and your support staff are very involved in the ordering process and in just the customer service aspect. You haven't
Right.
lost that. It's not full service. You don't, get seated by a host and all that. You have the option of going up to the bar, starting your tab, and then sitting down and then adding onto your tab that you started at the bar, or skipping that altogether, sitting at a table, scanning a QR code, placing your first order, and then continuing to either order from your phone or going up to the bar. That's where GoTab really kind of shines, is it gives the option to your guests to, again, choose their own adventure, kind of meet them where they're at. And so I love the fact that you've been able to kind of embrace all of those different models.
I think what's really interesting about it is, I mean, we'll still, it's crazy we're still talking post pandemic, but it's true, and it's still a thing. And there's a small percentage of people out there who still prefer less interaction and want to go directly to a QR code. I think a greater percentage of people are like, screw that. I want to actually order from somebody or have somebody serve me. And then there's the regulars who, when they walk in on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and they see a line, they go, screw that. Let's go grab a table and let's backdoor this. And so you've got these different groups that utilize the system in different ways.
Yeah, and then you told me you also like your food runners or your support staff will have handheld point of sales with them. So when they do drop off something, if they want, again, if that is a group that wants that human interaction, they're there to be able to add on to their tab directly from their handheld point of sale. If they don't want, oh, well, you're here, I might as well order from you instead of pulling out my phone and adding to my tab there. So just having all of those things in place, I think makes that much more of a difference, not only from the customer experience standpoint, but to your point earlier, not only are you looking for ways to cut your costs, but you're also looking for ways to generate more revenue. I mean, the best way to cut costs is to just generate more sales, right?
Right.
And so if you make it easier or give options to order, more orders get placed. And that actually, that's half of the point of this next slide that I'm throwing up here is that we found just by looking through data of various types of breweries and tap rooms that those types of tabs that include orders that come in from both the point of sale from a human interaction and from the QR ordering or from the mobile ordering, they generate just much higher total tab totals because you're giving them the option. You're giving people the option to order how they want to order and make it easier. If I'm in that group that you just referenced. If I can order everything from my phone, I will. If I know I have to get up and wait in line for that last beer when everybody else at my table already has a beer and I'm the only one, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna go without until somebody else needs a beer too, and then maybe we'll go wait in line together. But that's $5, $6, $7, $10 that did not get rung in because I wasn't willing to do it. The other aspect of it is, Ian mentioned the easy tab flow that GoTab offers. This is the flow that no other point of sale offers, even if they have QR ordering. We offer the ability to, again, traditionally go up to the bar, start your tab, dip your card, your do the pre-authorization, and you say, hey, would you like to keep it open or closed? We're going to keep it open, sure. When the guest is able to put in their phone number and then they get access to their tab on their phone without even having to scan a QR code, even if they close out remotely, that transaction ends up being a card present transaction, which for anybody who's been following their processing costs knows it's a much cheaper processing rate than a card not present transaction, which is what all the other, if you were to scan a QR code directly, put in your card information, the card's not physically present, it's a card not present transaction. And so those rates end up going really, they can save you thousands of dollars a year just on that type of transaction rate in and of itself. Not to mention that it's just an easier flow for your guests, and they can ignore it too. Like they can be like, all right, well, I'm not going to order from my phone. Don't bother. I'm just going to come back up to the bar, and that's fine. That goes back to the idea of having those options for everybody. Um, I mean, you mentioned, I think the other part of it that is interesting is the fact that you do have groups that are coming in or people that are coming in, they end up moving about the space. Now, talking to a lot of smaller tap rooms, this isn't as big of a deal, but the larger your space is and the more opportunity there are for to move around, this becomes a bigger deal. And the idea that, again, you're not starting multiple transactions because you're scanning different QR codes, that also is cutting down on your transaction cost as well. So the example that you gave earlier where, I come in by myself and then my buddies show up later and I move over to their tab. If I scan that QR code at the other table, I'm starting a new tab. I'm starting a new transaction. And every transaction that you actually process is, it's costing you more money as an operator as well.
Well, I mean, being in hospitality, I, those moments when you're out with your friends and there's, 4 or 5 of you, and then another 4 or 5 show up, and then your friends just start moving tables, like let them figure it out, and I get cringy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate this. I don't have to worry about that within my space. It
Yep.
doesn't matter within my space, and people can grow, expand, and contract their parties as they wish.
Mhm. Yeah, and the ability to also share access to your tab with others as well. Not everybody has to have their own tab as well.
Yeah.
Is a big plus that we see across the board.
Well, we didn't even talk about that on our initial call, but that's also a big thing. We're doing more and more special events here where we're really trying to market out and rent out our entire, patio or the north section of our restaurant, and being able to create a tab for a special event and have people add on to that, it makes it super easy.
Yeah. There's things that I think that you're not even using yet, but in that same space, we can not only create shared tabs for private events, but we can also utilize RFID technology to make it more secure for adding on to those tabs as well. So, example, you have a group of 50 booking out a space. You can create 50 different RFID cards, hand them out to everybody in the guests as they walk up to the bar. In order to add on to that private tab, they can tap their secure event tab to that, making that a lot easier of an ordering process. They also tie in with self-service kiosks and all the other handheld point of sales that might be revolving around the space as well. So that's something that I even put on one of these slide decks, but it is definitely something that is utilized especially in spaces that utilize private event spaces or just large groups that are coming in, groups of 10, 20 that might be ordering from various places, might be ordering from, a temporary bar that's sitting out on the patio versus the main bar that's inside versus a server that's walking around with their handheld. And it makes it a lot easier to place those orders in a complicated space where people are moving around a lot. Another thing that I've been talking about it a lot in other conversations, that whether you know it or not, I actually use you guys as an example of is the best way to utilize to create a membership. Now, again, I operated in four different breweries, and we all had a membership program. Most of the time it was as simple as a mug club. You are a mug club member, you get 20-ounce pours at 16-ounce prices. But what I like about yours is that it is more of a subscription model where they're able to get something out of it, right? You get like a certain amount of to-go beer. I believe it's 6 packs, 12 packs, or what have you, each month, and it's very attainable. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to the way that you guys do your memberships is kind of I'm gonna say, for lack of a better word, it's a gold standard as far as how to build it out. And we talked to a lot of breweries who just don't know the best way to put together their membership program. They might be starting one from scratch. They might be revamping theirs. Can you just tell everybody how you guys do your memberships and what you feel you get out of it?
Yeah, so our membership program is three-tiered, but we're going to talk about the top two tiers. The first tier is the entry program, the entry level. We call it Friends. Our motto here, our slogan is Friends, Family, Fresh Beer. So we call it Friends as the first tier. It's $49 per month. And with that $49, you receive 2 4-packs of your choice over the course of the month. Again, because your membership is tied to your phone number, when you come in, you enter your phone number, and those 4-packs will be removed from your tab or from your membership. Then you also receive 10% off of all purchases over the course of the month. And again, remember, everything is tied to your phone number. So when you come up, you create a tab, you put your phone number in, GoTab automatically knows to apply 10% to that tab. Then, in order to build regulars on Monday through Thursday, our slowest days of the week, our members will receive an additional 25% off. That's 35% off total of house beer only. Because house beer is our greatest margin, it's what we can afford to give away at the lowest cost. That brings the cost of one of our West Coast IPAs down to about $5.50, $6. Which is it's one of the cheapest pints probably in Southern California. We're no longer, the days of $5 Pliny's in Northern California are not the case anymore. And you really just don't see that unless you're drinking a domestic somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so not only that, in addition, they get access to, specialty membership swag. We throw quarterly events for our members where we feed them more beer and food than they can handle. Our brewers show up at that. They love the personal interaction. So yeah, it's a really well-rounded membership program. The next tier is called Family. Again, you're going to get all of those things, plus you're going to get 2 more 4-packs. So Family is really designed for either a couple or a family with young kids. So now you're talking about 4 4-packs per month for $99. It also includes a food aspect. If you have children, you get 4 kids meals per month, or you get 2 appetizers. So it's more of the create your own adventure. However you
what
want
I really like about it is that there's value built into it. I'm of the opinion that if you're just promoting just discounts, you're targeting the wrong people. These aren't the people who are going to join your membership based on the fact that they get a discount aren't necessarily in love with you and your brand and with your product. But if they are buying into it and they're going to get something out of it, not only are they forced to come in and make the purchase so they can get the value of their membership, they're also now they're in your door, right? So your members aren't just coming in just to get their 4-pack, their 6-pack. They're coming in for dinner, and then they're having to take their 6-pack with them on their way out the door because they're a member. And so, yeah, a lot of the data that I've tracked as well is that your members spend way more money than your non-members in general.
Well, that's what's crazy is we track. When I look at our budget and then our sales every single month, and compare the two, and our pre-memberships and our monthly discounts were about 1.5% to 2%, maybe 2% on the higher end of our monthly sales. Now with the way that the GoTab memberships are set up, we're seeing discounts triple that, right? So like we've gone from $2,000 a month to now $6,000 a month. but that's because that's the way the GoTab system is set up. And when I deduct from those discounts the amount of money we've collected from our memberships, now my overall discount percentage is actually lower. It's closer to 1%. And so the way I read that is, rather than my staff giving away free beers or discounting beers for their buddies, their homies, or whatever it is, if they can get them on a membership program, now their friends they already get that discount built in, and there's less to give away.
Yeah, there's definitely a security measure in place there for that to that aspect of it. The thing you touched on in there as well is that they get access to specific merchandise and swag and what have you, and so you have the ability to create what I like to call secret menus. And you might do it with merchandise, but we have other locations that are also doing it with food items and beers, and so that it recognizes the members as being in what we call a segment, and then it activates certain menus that you have available to them only when you have, maybe they get early access to a new brew that's coming out, or maybe there is a secret house beer that only members can purchase, if your municipality allows for that.
So you touched on something that I've just started. I mean, we've been doing it, but I just started expanding it. If you're familiar with our space here in downtown Long Beach, above us is about 200 units of residential. Directly across the promenade is another 300 units of residential. And then surrounding us, in downtown, there's thousands of units. From day one, we've offered 10% off of all tabs to our residents who live above us. And I've got property managers coming to me from all of these different residences asking if I'm willing to extend discounts to their residents. I've been hesitant to do that until literally recently, because now I can create QR codes and I can supply those property managers with QR codes, and their residents would literally scan it, create an account, and that'll automatically place their residents into a specific segment, like Inkwell or the Lofts or Reza or whatever the properties are around us. And now I can track who's coming in, and as long as they put their phone number in, they're going to get their discount.
We have another location, not a brewery, but we have another location that's doing something similar out in Tennessee, in Knoxville, where they actually they created QR codes for each apartment, and they're basically doing dine-in ordering like a hotel would do, because they can create very specific QR codes for every location, so they know exactly they're actually running food and drink up to the apartments because it's in the same building.
Yeah, it's great.
So there's a lot of different ways in which you can customize the order flow, to not only provide secret menus or discounts, but also identification of who's actually placing those orders. Not showing here on the screen, but like you can also, those segments that you're talking about can also show up on your KDS, so that you know when they are actually in your space placing orders. And if you want to take it to the next level, you can, what I would do back in my day is, if I knew somebody was sitting at a table that was a VIP or a member or whatever, we'd throw them, a couple free samples of a beer that just came out that they didn't know about. Or my chef might throw a free dessert their way, or an extra side of chips and salsa, just because. It's all about building the experience, and in order to build the experience, you have to be able to identify who it is that you're providing that custom experience to. And so we do give you that ability to customize that flow. The last thing I think is worth mentioning is just you have a decent tech stack in general. As you said, you came into this, as a brewer and having all that knowledge, but then going and then adopting what you had previously, and then having to kind of break it all apart. What That's just to say that there are all-in-one systems out there. Yes, sure. but usually the all-in-one systems don't always focus on the things that each one of those pieces doesn't get the same focus. And so you've kind of moved into a let's get the best of all the areas that we need. Let's find the best kind of option, and let's just make sure they talk to each other in the right way. Um, you said you're starting to utilize beer 30 on the
Yep.
brewery side. I believe you have 7 shifts, margins
Yep.
edge, a couple of the ones that are listed here on this slide, not all of them. But talk to me a little bit about your tech stack and how important it is to kind of make sure that you're utilizing the best of each piece.
So tech stack, again, it wasn't even a word, or I had no idea what a tech stack was
Sure.
4 years ago. I mean, I didn't even use we use spreadsheets for the brewery. So coming into this, like I said, we had Toast. We ran Toast. We ran Dolce Clock for scheduling and tip management. We ran, I've changed over so many pieces of tech in the last almost 3 years. My staff hates me sometimes because I'm like, we're gonna move this over. But what I've come to is there's got to be a reason to make the change, and it's not always monetary. Sometimes it is, but for the most part, it's not. I want to work within. I want my tech stack to be able to communicate to each other, and so through the move to GoTab, we brought on Triple C. We moved from Dolce Clock into 7 shifts for scheduling, but we also want to add communication. And now through 7 shifts, we're adding tasks and training. I'm sure eventually we'll add payroll. But the point is, like with bringing on Beer 30 and MarginEdge, with those two in particular, all of my sales from my front of house flow into MarginEdge for food costing and Beer 30 for beer costing. And it allows me to have more data to make better decisions. Now, I'm not going to lie, it's a heavy lift. I mean, to get MarginEdge updated and or fully integrated and running properly, you're talking about hundreds of hours. Same thing with Beer 30 or with a lot of this stuff. And as a dedicated previous brewer admin who's learning all this, it's a lot. But once it's complete, or it's never complete, once it's mostly complete, the information is pretty powerful.
I will say from all the inventory programs that I've used in my operating days, I will say the program is only as good as the people that are keeping it updated. And as soon as you stop updating it,
Yeah.
it's just like any other database, right? It's like the data is only as good as the information you put into it. And as soon as you stop keeping it updated or silo that information, this would be my biggest advice to anybody. Don't silo your knowledge. Make sure that you have multiple people on your team that have maybe not full access, but like full knowledge of how everything works, so that it's easier to train and bring in new people when things do change, whether it be your tech stack or the people on your team as well.
Right.
But yeah, just I think really the key point I want to make sure we take away from this is that you said it, like they need to be able to talk, and that speaks to GoTab's open API. I always like to say to people, like we integrate with anybody who's willing to integrate back to us. Most of the time, the best integrations are the ones where the two systems are talking to each other and not just one listening to the other. And so we will also provide, and we provided you, and we provide all of our accounts with access to the API as well. So each one of our accounts has access to their own data directly. So they can pull whatever data they want, build whatever custom web flows or webhooks and API calls that they want, to creating their own, not only integrations, but also just data calls as well.
So just to kind of put a fine point on that, I mean, I've been with GoTab now for a year and a half, maybe. I don't even know if we're at 2 years yet. And since I've been in, because of my request, we've added DAVO by Avalara for sales tax compliance. The Fishbowl is coming on, which is amazing for memberships and loyalty and SMS and email. And it's not, because of me, but bringing these things into our tech stack has made us a more powerful and more streamlined company, right? There are fewer things that I've got to think about and worry about on a daily basis. Toast, we're not here to crap on Toast. Toast has their own environment that they operate in. And if you would like to work, if you want a scheduling software, they have one for you. If you want a food platform, they've got one for you. But GoTab has been very willing to work within what the pieces of software, the pieces of tech that I think are the best in the industry.
Yeah, we're definitely have an opportunity to work with best of breed, I think is the common term that you hear out there.